Well, greetings, everyone. I'm Bill Guyton, Executive Director of the Fine Chocolate Industry Association, and I'm joined here today with Effie Maglaris, who is our Operations Manager and helped to organize not only this webinars, but many of the others that we've had. So, Effie, if you don't mind turning on your video just for a minute so people can see who you are. And again, thanks for all the hard work that you do. For those of you online who may not know us, the Fine Chocolate Industry Association is it's an organization of about 300 company members, all who are dedicated to really quality, fine flavored chocolate. And we have a variety of different activities that we undertake, including a new website, which is consumer facing, called Make Mine Fine, or MakeMineFine.com, which lists some of our companies that sell directly to consumers. So if you happen to have a chance at some point to check out that website, we welcome you to do that. It also has a lot of information about country profiles where cocoa is grown. In addition to that, we also work on value chain programs on cocoa, as well as standards development for quality and flavor, and supporting our company members. That's the most important thing, to help them grow and support their businesses. Since starting our educational webinar series in March of this year, we've held over 20 different sessions. And this fall, we have scheduled another dozen or more, usually on Wednesdays and Thursdays of each week. So if you'd like to look at our complete list of upcoming webinars, I invite you to check out our website, which is finechocolateindustry.org. Just looking ahead to next week, we have an interesting partnership webinar with the National Confectioners Association and several other smaller trade associations to look at some of the regulatory issues that are impacting the chocolate industry. That's going to be an hour-and-a-half session, and it will include an update on some of the recent regulations and that companies can keep their eyes on. And then we'll have a panel discussion from companies and hear firsthand experiences from companies of all sizes on how they handle different regulatory issues. So on to today's really interesting webinar session. Our topic today over the next 60 minutes is to discuss B Corp status, the benefits of fine chocolate companies. And I'm really honored to be joined here today with 4 of our company members. Jael Radigan is from French Broad Chocolates. If you want to wave your hand, Jael. Emily Stone from Uncommon Cacao. Benjamin Figarede from Valrhona. And Eric Lampman from Lake Champlain Chocolates. So please, everyone in the audience, feel free to type your questions in the Q&A feature box, and we will answer your questions during the last 10 minutes of the presentation today. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So to begin with, I'd like to turn first of all to Benjamin, and just to explain what is B Corp. Could you tell us a little bit what it is?
Hi, Bill, and hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be part of that webinar today. I think it's the idea of being inspiring, I think, and that's my dream also, that through that webinar and other means, we can inspire our audience, our chocolate lovers, whomever is interested in chocolate. So B Corp is actually an organization that got founded in 2006, so pretty recent, in fact. Was founded by 3 friends that believed that they wanted to aim and do better in the way that impact companies and purpose companies driven by those impact can protect and improve their positive impact over time. So how do you do that? Actually, first it states to measure your impact. You need to know where you do good and where you actually don't do good, and that's where you improve, and that's part of the process of becoming a B Corp company. So what you can do first is go to assessment.org, and this is a place where for free you can challenge your company, your business model towards the frame of what B Corp is about. And then you will see your results around that. So you can have a 0 to 200 points, depending on where you state on the impact. And so maybe in the first row, you realize, so you need 80 points to be a B Corp certified company. So starting, maybe you will realize that you're not there, and that's the case for our company when we started, but we'll go into that later. But it's a very comprehensive approach, I say, and that's all. So you have to measure your impact on the environment. You have to measure your impact on the people, especially in the cocoa industry. We worked a lot with communities, minorities in many countries. That's where you have to do a good job, and also what is your impact on the economy overall. Well, how you can do better and improve that impact. So being B Corp, and it's not just about all the cool and great companies that have become B Corp over time. It's really about together being accountable. The example for me, the best one is to say that I'm sure today in front of you, and I know in our panelists, there is also Emily Stone. And Emily Stone is one of our partners in the cocoa, representative of Uncommon Cacao. So it's really about staying together and challenging the difficulties, the constraints of your industry to make it better. So it's really about being accountable together as a group, as a B Corp community of companies. And for that, you have a lot of tools that will help you, such as the Beehive, where you can connect with all B Corp. You have the B Lab that is helping you finding resources, tool that you need around the topic. So it's really about how together we can thrive and take challenges of our industry. Thank you.
Great, Benjamin, and thank you for that overview. I think that gives us a better idea of exactly what B Corp is and some of the services that are provided that way, and how you can connect with others in the industry too that are B Corp companies. So my next question really relates to more, how does B Corp, how does that relate to other certification systems? We know about, we've heard of Rainforest Alliance and Fair Trade and product certification systems like that. We've also heard of some of us Benefit Corporation and Fair for Life. So I'd like to ask that question to Emily and to Eric if they could respond. And I'll go ahead and share my screen because they have some slides.
Sure. Thanks, Bill. And yeah, great to be with you all. I'm really excited to talk about B Corp today because it is such an important model that is growing quickly within the private sector across many different industries, but especially within chocolate, which is very exciting. So let's see. Yeah, you can see here in the slides that Bill is sharing. First, I wanted to cover the difference between a certified B Corporation and a benefit corporation as a legal structure. This is something that was really confusing to us as we first started our B Corp journey. And we were able to sort of work it out over time with the help of some lawyers, but hopefully this will cover some of the headlines so that you have a sense of, as you start to look at B Corp potentially for your own company or organization, where you want to get started. So as Ben mentioned and covered very nicely, B Corporation, B Corp is a third-party certification, and this is a certification that is conferred by the nonprofit B Lab, which was pretty recently founded, but again has been growing very quickly. A company that gets a B Corp certification has to go through the B impact assessment. They have to score at least 80 points on that impact assessment. And this assessment covers 5 main areas, which we'll get into in a little bit: workers, community, governance, environment, and customers. And based on the sector that your company is in, for example, we're certified as an agriculture company, the questions that you would be you would have to answer for that certification would look fairly different. And in order for the B Corp certification to be bestowed on your company, again, it's demonstrating through the assessment and the validation of that assessment through B Lab that you meet a high standard of social and environmental performance. And as a piece of that, there is a legal commitment that you do have to make in some way, whether it's in your company bylaws or through legally becoming a benefit corporation, that you are going to be accountable to stakeholders outside of just your shareholders as a part of your company sort of DNA. Any for-profit company can become B Corp certified, LLC is included. Now looking at a benefit corporation, Uncommon Cacao is a Delaware public benefit corporation. This is different than our status as a certified B Corp, although again, they're related because this is the way that we demonstrate that legal commitment that we have to impact. And we actually were a Delaware public benefit corporation before we became a certified B Corp. So when we organized our US company in 2016, we made the decision at that point to become a Delaware public benefit corporation, even though we didn't become formally certified under B Corp until 2017. And as a public benefit corporation, we are taxed as a C Corp. It's fairly straightforward in terms of taxes. In Delaware, there's a growing movement of B Corps. Lawyers are quite familiar with it at this point. And we are required to have a specific public benefit purpose. So that's a part of our corporate sort of bylaws. Uncommon Cacao's is to operate a transparent and fair supply chain in the cacao sector, which provides economic benefits to small and medium farmers by supplying chocolate makers with quality cacao sourced from small and medium farmers. Very specific, something we can really hold ourselves accountable to. And what this gives us is actual legal permission to sort of work around the traditional fiduciary duty that a corporate board or officer would be required to uphold. And that's one of the benefits of organizing as a benefit corporation, is that there are simply different expectations of you legally as a corporate leadership team. There are different regulations state by state. Right now, B Corp's benefit corporation status, either as a corporation or as a benefit LLC, is available in 31 states, but the rules do vary quite a bit state by state, including how often you have to report and to who, as well as the specific governance requirements around things like changing your public benefit statement. So that's the main difference from the legal sense. In terms of product certification, I think the name sort of says it all. When you are certifying products within your supply chain as Fair Trade, Rainforest Alliance, UTZ, et cetera, really what you're certifying is the product itself, and the amount of that product that is in your final chocolate bar or CPG item is what enables you to carry that logo on the product packaging that you're selling. You also, every single step sort of has to get certified across the supply chain. Whereas B Corp is very much it's a certification of the business model itself that your company is using, of your company operations in their entirety, again, including governance, the environment, workers, community, and your customers. So it's much more holistic in the way that you're able to reflect the work that many companies in this space are already doing. And I think that's why it's such an important certification to consider for specialty cacao and craft chocolate and premium chocolate in particular, because so many companies in this space are already going so far above and beyond the requirements for the product certifications, and B Corp really gives you an opportunity to share that work that you're doing. And Eric, I'll pass it to you to talk about the difference between Fair for Life in particular, since that does cover some other aspects outside the product as well.
Great. So at Lake Champlain Chocolates, we were a Fair for Life certified company for a number of years prior to becoming a certified B Corporation. We are privately held C Corp as a legal entity. But a number of years ago, we took up the Fair for Life certification and really felt like that was a model for us. But as we worked through that for a number of years, ended up being about 5 years, we were certified with Fair for Life. It felt more and more restrictive to us as a confectioner. Our place in the supply chain in the chocolate world is we buy couverture from various suppliers, and we utilize many ingredients to create confections. Very different than what Fair for Life was established on, which was much more an agricultural bulk item material format. So the complexity of all the various ingredients, buying things that are produced here locally in Vermont, not necessarily from afar in rural countries, became kind of complex for us to navigate as we put composite products together. So we started to look at what it provided us, which was a great structure for improvement and really getting some documentation in line around the practices we keep internally as a company. It went well beyond just the raw material certification. We had annual audits that were over the course of 2 days, interviewing dozens of employees during those audits and really asking a lot of what we were doing as a company here on the ground within our four walls in Vermont. So as we were able to pivot from that, we transitioned to becoming a certified B Corporation. We had a lot of the foundation laid from the prior work with Fair for Life. So it made our transition to become a certified B Corp a lot easier. I know that other companies we've talked to in this area, it's been more challenging to kind of make that first step, and that is something that should be put out there as advice or just a caution, is you don't just flip a switch on this. It does take time. You do have to prepare quite a lot of work before becoming certified B Corporation. For us, it was something that we were able to dive right into and kind of feel like we had a little bit more of our own control of where we wanted to take things. As a certified B Corporation, you really get to look at where you want to improve things and how that impacts what, as Benjamin has said, is it your community? Is it your environment? Is it your employees? Is it your customers? Is it part of how your governance is set up? And so that's something that we've really shifted our focus towards, and it's allowed us to be much less restrained in terms of just the raw material procurement side of things. Again, as a brand, we've had many product certifications and still continue to have those as well. It's not something that is replaced by B certification. I think it's something that is kind of adjacent to it and also kind of works together, maybe more like an umbrella over some of the other product certifications. So some examples that we have are kosher certification, fair trade certification, organic USDA certification. Again, those are very much just product attribute related. So Certified B Corporation goes well beyond into your everyday actions and policies and how you document and work as a company, and really what your culture is that you bring. So I hope that kind of addresses a little bit of the product, as well as a little background on how B Corporation is different than Fair for Life, which is a similar model in some ways.
No, you both did a fantastic job of explaining the differences. I think that there's a lot more clarity now between product certification and then the certification systems that you just described. So let's move on to looking more at the system and how the certification process works on the ground and the costs involved. And Emily, I'd like to turn to you if you could help explain that.
Sure, absolutely. So as Jill and Ben both mentioned, everything starts with taking the impact assessment. So this is sort of the initial phase. It's a free tool that's available to any company. The link has been put into the chat box. So anyone who's interested, you can click on that, you can go in. They say here that it should take 1 to 3 hours. Our experience is that it takes significantly longer than that, but that the experience of taking the assessment itself is really informative. As both Ben and Eric mentioned, being able to see where you're sort of falling short is just as important as seeing, if not more important, as seeing, where you're really doing things right. After that, there is, that's again a free tool. If you do decide that you want to go forward with the full B Corp certification process, you would then, as is shown sort of in the infographic here, really important aspect, engage your team. So very often sort of just the CEO will do the first assessment as a quick, trial of, is this something we want to look into? Once you know that this is something you really want to explore as a company, I cannot recommend highly enough to get others on your team involved. Whether you're in the agricultural supply chain, this could mean, reaching out to different producers. There's a lot of documentation you'll need from them. If you're in the chocolate space, making sure your employees, your team who work directly with your customers, who manage your different HR policies, you will have questions and documentation requirements for all of these folks. So the earlier you get them involved in the process, the better. We have found that it takes between 24 to 30 hours to sufficiently fill out a B Corp assessment. So this is, again, it takes us, usually that means a total of about 2 to 3 months filling out the assessment, collecting all the documentation, going back to make sure, all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. At that point, when you're ready to submit what would be sort of your final assessment to the B Lab, you'll submit that. This process is all still free, although it does require significant time investment. And then you'll be contacted back by B Lab. They'll assign basically a reviewer to your case, and you'll have a bunch of back and forth with them. So that's the assessment, review, and documentation. You'll have to submit supporting documentation, whether that's your employee handbook, HR policies, information and spreadsheets around your product certification, around the different, for us, for example, in the agriculture space, technical assistance programs, what services we offer to suppliers, whether we do any kinds of financing, all of the background information to prove what you've stated that you're doing within your supply chain. Once that is completed and they have all of the documentation that they need to back up the claims that you're making, you then take or complete a disclosure questionnaire. And this is important because I think, for a lot of companies, especially larger companies looking to get into the B Corp certification process, it's not expected that you're perfect, right? It's not expected that you as a company are 100% angelic. You've never had anything happen. You've never had any recalls or HR issues. That is a part of, the reality of running a business. Is there are so often these bumps in the road or hurdles that, we have to get over and learn from as company leaders. The disclosure questionnaire is an opportunity to cover that. So whether it's environmental issues, human resources issues, instances of child labor in the supply chain, whatever it might be, that's sort of these touchy issues, the disclosure questionnaire is an opportunity to cover that. And that's really important, again, because the transparency and accountability of the B Corp certification is paramount. Just making sure you're really upfront with B Lab about things that might not look so great in your company's history is really important. And then finally, sort of the final documentation step. At that point, you would pay. The payment process, or the payment is done on a sliding scale. So I think that's the next slide, Bill. And at that point as well, when you make the payment, you're also confirming what your legal pathway is to being a benefit corporation. So whether that is legally becoming a legally registered benefit corporation, or just including into your current LLC, C Corp, S Corp, whatever form you might be registered in, into those bylaws and certificate of incorporation, some more details around what your specific benefit purpose or mission statement is. So you can see here the annual certification fee costs are not prohibitive for small companies. They really do keep them quite low for companies that are, in the sub $10 million range. They obviously get much higher once you're larger than that. The nice thing as well is recertification. So going through that process does not have to happen annually as it does with so many other certifications. It's only every 3 years. So once it's done, we actually just went through our recertification process a couple months ago for Uncommon. You still pay a fee annually. So that is, just a part of the system, but the time investment and all of the documentation only has to happen every 3 years.
Great, thank you. I think that gives us a really good understanding, Emily, of the process. And I'm interested in what percentage of the companies that apply actually receive B Corp. Do you have any idea on that?
That's a good question. Jill might know. I feel like she knows the answers to a lot of these things.
Yeah, sorry, that was a question that we had not discussed previously. I was just curious as you were describing it. So speaking of which, Jahelwa is going to next run through some examples of companies that are B Corp, including those in the fine chocolate industry. So I'm just trying to pull that up for you. And unfortunately, I just lost it here, but.
Would it be easier if I shared?
Yes, that's great. I somehow got it lost in my group of presentations.
Oh, I have to open system preferences. That might take a minute.
Okay, let me in the meantime see if I can pull it up. Okay, I got it. Let's see. There we go.
So I think the question that a lot of people might have is this right for me? And so I want to first address what companies, how many companies, what kind of companies are choose to become certified B Corps. So, we collectively are a community of leaders who are driving a global movement of people using business as a force for good. You might hear each of us use that phrase because it is the mission of B Labs, and it is something that I personally identify very strongly with. When I first saw that mission, I knew I was in the right place. I knew that I found that sort of identity of a business owner that I wanted to be. And so it's, like Emily said, it's businesses that meet high standards of verified social and environmental performance, public transparency, and legal accountability. These are people who want to balance purpose and profit. And so that's over 3,000 businesses right now worldwide. So B Corps are in 65 countries. So on the chat, somebody asked about Canada. I actually don't know about the legal entities, business legal entities in Canada, but there are certainly hundreds of certified B Corps in Canada. So it's across a number of industries, but it's all people with the goal, the shared vision of using business as a force for good. If you want to go to the next slide, you'll recognize a lot of companies here. So Patagonia is one of the founding B Corps, along with King Arthur Flour, which has recently become King Arthur Baking. New Belgium Brewing, a lot of names that you recognize here. So you're in really good company, and it is really exciting to know that there are really big influential corporations that want to see business done another way. So that's really inspiring. It's my experience and belief that fine chocolate, craft chocolate companies really align with this value system. So it's really a natural fit to consider certified B Corp status. If you want to go to the next slide, you can see these are all the companies I found in the directory affiliated with the chocolate industry that are certified B Corps. So again, really good company, chocolate companies from around the world, all with that same vision of what business can look like, a business that is caring for people in place, and in an industry with a tough history and a supply chain wrought with inequity, to have a community of people who want to change that in chocolate is really exciting, and I think brings us all together. For us, it was a really natural fit, and we didn't have to change a lot of what we were doing in our business. It just got us organized.
Great, Jael. Well, that was really helpful. So, we got a better idea, outside the fine chocolate industry, you'd be in very good company with Patagonia and many other familiar names that you had in your previous slide. And then all of these companies here from the fine chocolate industry that are mentioned. So with that, now we'd like to talk with each of the companies separately on what kind of motivated them to become B Corp certified, and some of their experiences along the way. And Eric, I have you first on the list, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen because I believe you have a 2 slides PowerPoint.
Yes.
So let's see. All right, can you see that?
Yeah, if there's a way to throw it in the slideshow mode, it'll
Okay.
go larger, but if not, that's okay too. So yeah, like Champlain Chocolates, as JL mentioned, the phrase, we believe that business is a force for good and recognize that our decisions we make affect our products, our community, and the planet. And something we've always believed in from many years ago is let chocolate change your world. And so obviously it's something you can interpret in any different way. If you're a consumer, if you're in the industry, or if you're just an outsider to the industry of chocolate, but you can certainly start to engage with how businesses can use this certification as a way to provide some focus and really make some impact. For Lake Champlain Chocolates, as I mentioned earlier, we had many product certifications already underway, and they felt a little bit fragmented. And to be very honest, they have impact and they have their purpose, but it didn't really always come home here to Vermont and to our company and to all of our employees. Oftentimes it was very much just living on the package and living in paperwork in the file cabinets. And B-Corp really becomes very human and becomes very much something that can be seen and talked about and resonating throughout your facilities, whether it's in a manufacturing setting, whether it's in retail stores, if that's what you have, or even through a warehouse. It's how you kind of come to work and how you show up. It's how you represent your company, your brand, and your lifestyle. And so I think for us, it really became a way for us to think a little bigger and have a little more purpose beyond just simply making a product that was put on a shelf. As long as I can remember, and I'm part of the company's founding family, so second generation, I've grown up in the business. It's not something that was really very clear throughout our whole history. However, it's what we've always been, is all about win-win partnerships and direct relationships with people we work with, both kind of in all directions in the supply chain. So it fit very well for us to transition into B Corporation and certification. And it's challenged us. It's not going to be easy. I think, as both Emily and actually as all of us have acknowledged, I think it is a challenging process to become certified and to continue on as the years go on. After your first initial certification, how to make continuous improvement. And that's really what the model is all about, is finding some areas to continue to make continuous improvement. For our business, we've started to really focus on how to make more improvement around environmental impact. As you can see in this picture, this is a beautiful shot of Lake Champlain, and the right side is Vermont and the left side New York, and this is what we call home. It's an important part of our brand. It's an important part of our employees' lives and recreation and how we enjoy our time here in this beautiful state. So for us, it's something that we want to keep clean. We want to keep in a healthy manner. So we've really focused on how to put some things together throughout our company, whether it be in product, which I'll talk about in just a minute, or whether it's internally in our facilities and how we operate our business, where our water waste goes, how we compost, and other elements like that. So it'll challenge you to think a little bit differently about the things you're doing and really act on them in a way that doesn't have to be major and radical in the first few steps, but really can be small things that can gain momentum, and then over time you can find yourselves having a lot of velocity going forward. And then I guess the process for us, as I mentioned, was a transition from Fair for Life into B Corporation, and now we are approaching our recertification date, which will be in May of 2021. And to Emily's point, engage your team. And that's something that we have been working towards doing. It takes training. It takes working with your team members to give everybody an education of what B Corporation means. It is complicated. It is something that's intangible at times, but I think we all also have a tangible product that helps us all relate to the different attributes of what makes B Corp really something special, and how you can bring it to life. So for us, it's engaging our team and really starting to spread that through the organization and continue that, where team members become part of filling out the next reassessment questionnaire, which has all the various categories, and getting them involved so that it's not myself and maybe a couple others from a senior level in the company, but it's really including everybody to pitch in and really provide kind of a fingerprint on what it is that makes us B Corp. So that's kind of where we are today. Bill, if you want to jump to the next slide. This is just a recent example of a product that kind of contains product certifications, as well as I think the essence of what B Corp is all about is we're really trying to partner with a local organization here in the Champlain Valley that has a conservation nursery, and proceeds from all the sales of these chocolate bars will be going towards planting out native grasses and trees along waterways and rivers and streams that funnel into Lake Champlain, which is our namesake, because it's just so important for this area. If the lake were to go away in some manner, or was to become unhealthy for recreation and other enjoyment, it would be detrimental to this whole region. So we feel like partnering with a group locally, helping them bolster their programming, as well as, again, carry it forward with consumers and make awareness is a vital piece to what B Corp is all about, and really weaving it through fabric of both our product as well as kind of how we do things in business. So so that's a bit from Lake Champlain Chocolates, and happy to pass it along to somebody else to keep going.
Great, Eric, thank you for that, and great presentation. And I wanted to ask the same question now of Jael at French Broad Chocolates, if you could give us a little bit more insights on French Broad perspectives on B Corp.
Definitely. As I mentioned, when I heard the phrase "people using business as a force for good," it felt right. We've always strived to be a company of holistic integrity. So where a lot of the certifications are hyper-focused on one aspect of a product or a business, whether that's sustainability or energy use or organic or living wage, there's always sort of a focus. And what I loved about the B Corp model was that it incorporated all of these and allows us to be able to track and demonstrate that. So it really fit with who we were, our DNA as a company, and that's what motivated us to pursue it. From there, I think externally it really demonstrates our commitment to, we'll call it, goodness. It's as has been mentioned several times, it's a very rigorous survey of your business. It's really detailed. You cannot fake your way through it. It takes a lot of work. And anybody who's familiar with the B Corp certification knows that. So if you see the little circle B on a label, you know that that company is something that you can be proud to support. Internally, the B Corp certification provides a framework for us to be able to measure goodness so that we can achieve it and commit ourselves to continuous improvement. We could easily and have said, we want to be good, we want to support local, we want to be a community member. Like those are all kind of ethereal and hard to measure intangibles. But B Corp really provides a detailed structure to be able to quantify and measure so that you can improve. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, there's just a lot of support that comes with it as another benefit that motivated us to become a B Corp. From the global organization level all the way to hyper local organizations that pop up in a lot of cities around the world. We get to commune with like-minded businesses, share resources, share ideas and best practices, and really grow together. The certification process for us took almost a year, and that wasn't like my full-time job for a year. It was definitely something that I, popped in and out of as I had the time to do so. But it was a long process. We did have an employee who worked in our bookkeeping department who was in college, and she was able to get a class credit for helping us kind of wrangle some of the data that you need to support your claims. Additionally, we had an intern from a local college that helped us organize some of the documentation. So there's opportunity to connect with academics. There's a whole community called the B academics that are studying B Corp, studying profitability and challenges and opportunities. And so there's a lot of colleges who are focused on this way of doing business. We in Asheville have a college that actually has an MBA program in social enterprise, so more of a purpose-driven company angle, as well as a master's program in sustainability. And so that's like a population of students who wants this, who wants to be involved in business in this way. And it's a great opportunity to help to raise the next generation of leaders who really want to see business handled responsibly in a way that's more sustainable for the long term.
Well, thank you, Jael. That was really interesting, and particularly I like the creative ideas that you had or suggestions on using interns, and particularly where you're located in North Carolina, you have so many universities at your disposal, and what a great idea that was to utilize some talent there from the university to help through an internship. I'd like to turn it over now to Valrhona, and Ben, if you'd like to say a few comments, I will share the screen again. You have a presentation.
Yeah, the presentation is just like a few images, and it's actually it's not so much about the full story of Valrhona with B Corp. It's maybe something a little more personal, and is my own story with B Corp. Actually, it started in 2016, and it was a seminar. So Valrhona, we're a food service company. We serve chocolate for all the chefs, restaurants, chocolate makers around the world. We make couverture from single origins blend, etc. But I'm sure a lot of you knows about that. But so we have a company seminar. We're an international company. We honestly, we generally do that once a year. This year it was for sure consult. But it's the kind of seminar where you get inspired people coming to you, sharing their vision, sharing their story. Most of the time, as we work in the food industry, it's a lot of chefs, a lot of people involved in the food in a way, or growing ingredients, sourcing ingredients, and that's the beauty of those seminars. You get inspired. It's a bit like a TED talk, and so at that seminar, somebody came to us and talked about B Corp, and I was like, oh, another certification. While Valrhona has not didn't jump initially in those certification process, because we've been working with cocoa farmers for a little more than 30 years. I mean, the company is almost a century, but more than 30 years ago, we focused in a lot on the quality of the beans, the story we could bring from that, differentiating the terroir, the different origins, and working hand in hand with farmers. We intend to know them very well now. And the funny part of our job is we work roughly with 18,000 farmers around the world, and some are from Belize, like the one represented by Emily. But we work also with West African and many countries around the world, like 16 different ones. So the idea, we work also with the same amount of direct customers in the end. So Valrhona, we found that interesting that B Corp was actually connecting all the dots we were thinking of. I mean, Valrhona, we've been working directly with the farmers first for the quality of the beans. We needed higher quality, so like you need to control the process, you need to understand the dynamic locally, you need to understand what can affect the quality of the beans. And so in the end, you're so connected to those farmers that you tend to know them very well. I can talk to them. I can name them, most of them. It's incredible. And so what we found very interesting at B Corp, it's so comprehensive of all what we need to do well it comes from the quality of the beans, but you need to ensure that the people that you work with are well paid. They can make a good wage from what they do. So you intend to try to solve that. I mean, you can't just rely on how much you pay to them, but how together we tackle the challenges of their industry, like with diversification, introducing agroforestry. There's a lot of things. Everything again started with this unique chocolate called Guanaja that was launched in 1986. So one of the crazy thing about that chocolate, it's a blend of 5 different origins. So you have to be sure that all those 5 origins are very good. So you need to visit the farmers, know them, engage with them to be sure that in the end that the chocolate and the community you live and you rely on is making good. And so our job really about connecting the dots is really about inspiring connect generations of cocoa farmers. We want them to be proud of what they do, and one of the things we do for that is making them connected with our chefs, with our customers, so they intend to know them and to realize that their job that they're carrying daily at the farm is so important for the end users, and make them understand that, which is not so often the case. There are a lot of farmers around the world that are that don't exactly know where the cocoa is used after all, and it's all about inspiring also the generations of chefs that we work with. So through our schools, through all our programs supporting farmers and supporting chefs. So it's in the US working with the food recovery networks and a lot of organizations, the James Byrd Foundation and many of them. I'm not a specialist, but again, there's a lot of things we're trying to do around that. And it's, again, about inspiring. So that being said, we have to monitor everything we do. So we monitor the carbon footprint, our impact, where our factory today is 100% carbon neutral. Our aim is by 2025 to have all our value chain certified as a carbon neutral. So doing some insetting with the farmers in all the communities. So yeah, I passed through those slides, but yeah, it's about getting to know who you work with, and that's very important. And to finish, the aim of Valrhona is actually in our signature. It's let's imagine the best of chocolate. And that being said, I think we say everything that is important. We have together to make the best chocolate from the farmers to the end user. So thank you for the opportunity you gave us to share that.
Great, Benjamin. Thank you for that, and all the great work that Valrhona has been doing over the years. As you said, you're a company that's been around a long time, and the fact that you've joined B Corp really says something, I think, for the certification program itself, the corporation, that you value that, and you're getting a value out of that. Emily, I wanted to turn to you last. You represent a different segment of the supply chain and probably a little bit different perspective, but would love to hear your thoughts.
Sure, yeah, and I'll keep it pretty quick because I don't want to make sure we have time for questions. But our focus on social and environmental impact has been a part of the DNA of Uncommon Cacao since we started. Just personally, my sort of previous career before starting this company was as an activist. I spent a lot of time working with large public corporations and holding them accountable for transparency reporting on environmental, social, and governance issues. So from the second I arrived in Belize and started to work to build Maya Mountain, I knew that we were going to be holding ourselves publicly accountable for the work that we were doing and for the mission and values that we wanted to uphold. So we are a group of companies. Uncommon Cacao Group includes Maya Mountain Cacao in Belize, which is a cacao processing and export company, Cacao Vera Paz in Guatemala, which is a cacao buying and export company, and Uncommon Cacao, which is a distributor of cacao beans in the US and Europe. And we've been publishing transparency reports, many of you may be familiar with them, since 2012, which covered our 2011, our first harvest season, and reporting on our progress and impact under KPIs that we've been covering each year since 2012. We just put out our 9th transparency report this year. This reporting has evolved as our company has grown, And we actually first took the B Impact Assessment back in 2013 when we were introduced to it by a small business accelerator program. We ended up not going through that full process until 2017 when we had our sort of fully integrated group of companies. But it was really helpful for us to take that assessment at an early stage because it helped us to build in the right way. You know, there was a question around sort of for startups and small companies, at what stage do you think about starting to do this work? I would say take the assessment as early on as possible because it will help you build the right way without needing to go back and redo a bunch of things that you could have done right from the beginning, especially when it comes to governance, HR policies, the way you treat your workers. Those things can be really easy to implement from the beginning if you just know what the right thing is to do. So we did end up fully completing the assessment, the verification, and as I mentioned before, becoming a legal public benefit corporation in 2016 and 2017. We're technically certified under the agriculture sector, and I completely echo, you know, everything that the other three panelists have said. For us, some of the biggest benefits have been for our team. We're a pretty small company, and very often for employees of a small company, it can be hard to find networking opportunities, resources, and support outside of the company leadership or sort of small environment. And so B Corp has opened up the doors for our team to be a part of a bigger community, both in the Bay Area specifically, where there are a lot of B Corps and there are a lot of networking events and opportunities. We also have hired a lot through the B Work network. That's been a great resource for us in terms of hiring. And, you know, hearing Valrhona became B Corp certified this year. Jail, French Broad is B Corp certified, has been for many years, like Champlain being B Corp certified. Increasingly, our customers know what B Corp is, and they want a supply chain that is very aligned with their values because we make it easier for them to comply with B Corp. So I think as an actor in the supply chain, when you're looking at different product certifications and the costs and benefits of doing these different models, you know, B Corp really does offer a way for you to connect with the market of chocolate companies and the broader sort of industry in a way that helps to clarify what you stand for and the work that you're doing.
Great, Emily. Those are excellent comments. And, you know, I was thinking as you were talking that I hope if we were to do this same seminar next year, I hope we would have double the amount of fine chocolate companies on Jahel's example list. And perhaps that's a goal that we can look at FCIA is try to encourage more of our companies to participate. It sounds like there's real benefits. We've got some great questions coming in, and I wanted to make sure that we address at least as many as we can with the time that remains. And the first question is more about how to get started. And the question is, as a chocolate company, would you recommend starting with a product ingredient certification or with B Corp, considering issues of cocoa sourcing? Let me ask that of Eric, if you could say a few words on that.
Sure. Well, I guess our experience is that we came from as a company with product certifications. But to Emily's point, you know, that if you're an early startup company, the earlier you get started on figuring out if B Corp is right for you or the direction you want to head, you can start to really weave that into your supply chain. You can start to weave that into how you do business. And that's really what B Corp is all about, is it's really how you do business. And so I guess from our perspective, again, as a chocolatier who's buying couverture, we're removed from some elements of the supply chain, which, you know, it was something that we look for as criteria are some of the product certifications. They certainly add and support the B Corporation certification. Would we be certified if we were not using product certifications? I don't know, but I would guess that our score would go down if we didn't have some of those certifications involved.
Great. I have another question that comes in on the consumer purchasing side, and if you've seen an effect on that. And Jahel, you know, you've been a B Corp for several years. What have you observed over time as far as consumer purchasing effect?
You know, I think that's one of the stated benefits is a marketing benefit. I don't think our sales have increased because we're a certified B Corp, but I do think that our connection to our customers is stronger because we have that shared sense of values. Our customers pay more for chocolate because they want chocolate with a story, with that they can be emotionally connected to, that they can feel good supporting. And so that it creates a stronger tie, a stronger bond between us and the people who enjoy our chocolate.
Fantastic. And we have another similar question, and I'm going to see if Benjamin can respond to this one. It might be a little bit different given the different company. Do consumers have knowledge of B Corp, and is it adding value to your business? An understanding of corporate social responsibility.
Yeah, I think what's great for us around B Corp and why we jumped in it is because it makes everything we do good more visible, I would say, connecting the dots with other renowned, like Jill mentioned, not just in chocolate, but if you think of Patagonia, if you think of Tom's, those shoes, if you think of King Archer, not flour but bakery now, and so I think it's really about being part of that community. If people realize that they see more and more of this B sign on the products they're using, they will connect and understand that, oh, this company is doing a great job, and let's figure out. So it really depends on the market. I think it's really in the Northern American market, in the USA in particular, that the B Corp certification is more renowned than everywhere. In France, we're still in the process of knowing what B Corp is about, but even there are more and more companies getting B Corp, and I think all the job we're all doing and we're committed to around B Corp is making and bringing awareness about what's good about it and how it can help. So it's for consumers, yes, for sure, there are more B Corp certified products in their shelves now. And also it helps with connecting with the corporate world, where this certification is a recognition of what you do good, very well. And a lot of interested customers will ask, oh yeah, you are B Corp. Oh, that's a good point. And from that you can move on to the next questions. But it really helps to develop the business.
Great. And the next, I'm going to combine, because there's two really good questions here that make us look outside the fine chocolate sector. We've been talking a lot from those of you in the value chain. A question was asked about chocolate, or about equipment suppliers and those who manufacture chocolate molds, for example. What role could they play in this? And then kind of part B to that same question, what about nonprofits? Emily, could you tackle that one?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any company, whether you're making chocolate or chocolate molds or chocolate equipment, is eligible for B Corp certification. So I would just recommend, if you're interested in exploring this for your business, take the assessment. That's the first step. And it would be amazing to have some equipment and other suppliers into the industry outside of the sort of product of cacao certified. So I encourage you to do that. In terms of nonprofits, I'm not certain, but I don't believe that it is like sort of the right certification for a nonprofit. It's still maybe
Can I add to that? It's just not for nonprofits. Nonprofits are purpose-driven companies with stated benefits. I would say that the B Corp certification is almost like the for-profit company's answer to a nonprofit. Like, you have to be a for-profit entity to seek this certification.
Thanks, Jill.
Excellent response. That answers that. Okay, here's another question, I think an important one. After you submitted your assessment to B Corp, how long was the audit process? What specific documentation was required to be given a B Corp as part of the audit?
We just went through that process a couple months ago, so I'm happy to jump in here. So it took us from the time that we submitted our sort of final assessment for recertification until we got the recertification, about 2.5 months. And I probably had about 120 documentation requests. So they weren't all sort of different pieces of documentation. Sometimes it was the same document for 5 or 6 questions, but it was quite onerous.
Great. So final question, and it's a really good one at the end. In addition to all the great work for companies that are part of B Corp certification, or have always done as part of their company DNA, what would you say is the single most impactful change or new innovative B Corp certification and the goal of improving your B Corp score has pushed your company to make?
I can answer that because I'm unmuted. Thanks for the great question, Laura. So sure, I think for us, the biggest piece has been around environmental impact. This is something that, in our first round of certification, and even honestly in our second round of recertification, we were fine on our environmental score, but certainly not an overachiever. We have not, for example, put in the sort of carbon footprint analysis and carbon mitigation work sort of into action yet. And so that's been a big motivator across our whole team as part of our recertification process, realizing that we hadn't made the progress on environment that we were hoping to. And so now we're doing a really deep dive across our supply chain. We're working on carbon footprint calculators and working to make that information available to our customers as well, so that we can help our customers, when they enter B Corp certification, also look at their supply chain carbon footprint and have that improvement for their own scores. Fantastic.
We are on the hour, and each of our panelists, I just wanted to thank each one of you for a fantastic session. I learned a lot from this. I think that the audience did as well. I just wanted to remind everyone in the audience that we have recorded this, and you will receive that recording by email. We also will post it on our website for FCIA members at no cost. We will also send out the questions that weren't answered to our panelists to get responses. So if your question wasn't covered during this session, don't worry, we will make sure to get an answer back to you afterwards. Once again, thanks to everybody, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.